Hi there, everybody. Just a quick show note. There's a part towards the end of the podcast where we are talking about the defendant James Jamal Williams' time in jail. Somehow or another, we missed a segment in our editing process introducing what we were talking about. So our deep, sincere apology if it gets a little weird towards that time period, but just wanted to give you guys a heads up. Hope you enjoy the podcast. When the light fades and the shadows prevail, we find ourselves in the
All right, so welcome everybody to the very first episode ever of Dark. We are your hosts. This is Alicia,
and this is,
and we both have wanted to do a podcast for a really long time, and I had mentioned it to Melissa. I was like, "Hey, I really want to do this podcast." She's like, "Me too," and I was like, "You're my co-host. Perfect."
and fun fact, we're ex-sister-in-laws.
Yes,
So
we have a history together. So I am really excited about this. I know that we're probably going to make some fuck ups here and there. Things are probably not going to be 100%, but you know what? Hey, that's podcasting for you.
we are amateurs.
We are very much amateurs. So we hope that one day that we'll be able to, something a little more professional towards the front, but hey, you know what, everybody's got so
and this is us starting somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. Every podcast that I've ever listened to, the very first 20 episodes are just kind of like feeling the waters, so we're going to be doing the same thing. So just to kind of give everybody a little bit of a heads up, Dark is a podcast that talks about true crime situations. There's going to be a lot of talk about things that may be a little bit triggering to certain people. So we're going to do our very best at the beginning of each episode to be like, hey, this may be mentioned, or, this may be said.
This is not your cup of tea, you might want to buckle up.
Yeah, you might want to buckle up. Or if things are, may want to skip to another podcast that we may end up doing, because I know that we're not going to do just true crime. We're going to be doing paranormal, pretty much anything that is kind of dark and kind of scary, and it kind of just hangs out in the recesses of people's minds sometimes. So, we'll definitely try to have
Things
some
that
variety.
People don't really want to talk about.
Exactly. So that's one of the things that I can definitely say that you're going to get a good variety from us. So I hope you're looking forward to it. When we were discussing trying to get everything set up earlier, Melissa had mentioned that she doesn't know what I'm talking about today.
Nope. So if I come across kind of dry, that's why. I know nothing about the topic. So
yeah,
my reactions are going to be real.
Exactly. So, and that's kind of how I want to approach this. Whenever I'm telling a story, I want to kind of be like, okay, so here's the story, and I want her genuine reaction, and I want her to do the same thing for me. Yeah, exactly. So this one is an Alicia centric one for the first one, and then Melissa's gonna take the reins probably on the next one, I'm pretty sure, and we'll go back and forth like that, just so that way we have like I said, some variety, and you have some different information here and there. So I'm really excited about it. So without further ado, since we are brand new and we really don't have anything to shout out or anything like that, I think we should just go ahead and get started.
Let's do this.
All right. So my story today actually hails from my hometown. And if I say a lot, I am so sorry. I am trying to get out of that habit. I worked really, really hard for a couple of years as a trainer in the tech world, and they were like, you've got to get those pause words out of you. Tried, but still hang out there. Story...
it doesn't work very
No, the story that I am telling today, like I said, is from my hometown. And I I think one of the reasons why I'm picking this is a twofold reason for this. Number one, the story that I'm about to tell kind of stuck with me. It happened in 2004. I was working for my local newspaper at the time, and it, like I said, it just kind of, I don't know, hit all of us kind of hard, especially at the newspaper, because this was something that we've never really dealt with. And a lot of us, we weren't novices at the newspaper field. We've seen our share of pretty messed up things, but for some reason, this one has always stuck with me. And there's another reason why I'm telling the story is because of the circumstances that happened. These things are still happening in my town today. And so I want to kind of hopefully bring to light some of the issues that have been happening and maybe make it to where this is more of a, what's the word I'm looking for? This is a kind of a push, maybe.
Which your hometown is Darlington, South Carolina.
That is correct. Darlington, South Carolina.
Just to put that out there.
It's a very tiny
so we know
town.
where it's a very tiny town.
Yes. Known for NASCAR. That in itself right there. Yeah. I'm sorry. I lived in Darlington for almost my entire life. I never went to a race. So I mean, everybody's like,
my hometown is Charlotte, North Carolina. I understand.
Yeah, so I mean, she came from well, they're not just known for the racing in Charlotte, but it's funny that you bring up Charlotte because I'm actually going to talk about it a little bit in the story. So essentially, I moved to Charlotte in late 2010. It was right after Christmas. When we moved there, Melissa was like, there's just certain places in Charlotte you do not go.
You don't
go because there's a lot of gang activity, a lot of violence in certain areas in Charlotte, and you basically had to watch your back a lot. I mean, and that's pretty much how it is in any big city. I've been to, I've been to Las Vegas, I've been to Los Angeles, I've been to Atlanta, New York, Chicago. I've been to some of the major cities, but everybody has always said, if you go to this city, avoid this area. Like they've always said, do not go in this area alone by yourself at dark. There's always been,
drive with your windows up, your doors locked.
Exactly. Like you've got to be very careful in big cities. And so, Charlotte was definitely an eye-opening experience for me because, when people say they live in Charlotte, you think they're thinking, oh, well, they don't actually live in the city. They live in like Ballantyne, Monroe, or something like outside of Charlotte.
Pineville. No.
Yeah.
We lived in the heart of Charlotte.
The heart of Charlotte. We're talking South Boulevard, straight up to the middle of downtown Charlotte.
Yeah, buddy.
And yeah, so we're accustomed to things that happen in big cities because of our time.
Going to sleep at 9mm shots in the middle of
right.
That was my lullaby.
Exactly. We'd see the helicopters from the police department flying overhead at night, searching for people. So it kind of became like, you get used to that feeling. The problem is that's in big cities. You don't really you're not supposed to feel that in a small town. In the small town, you're supposed to feel this sense of belonging, this sense of safety.
A false safety.
It's a very, very false safety. And I grew up in a very small town, 8,000 people max, and everybody knew everybody. Everybody, you'd see them on the streets and you'd wave and you'd say hello. And our favorite Southern saying, how's your mom and them? And for me, what took place in 2004 just kind of shocked the system and also kind of shocked a lot of people. So let me get into kind of a backstory about what I'm going to be talking about. I was able to pull up some records from the Florence County Judicial Department, and I'm trying to remember exactly which one it was. There it was. Okay. So in 2001, a man by the name of James Jamal Williams went up before the Florence County judge at the time. And that judge was Eugene Cooper. So I'm just going to give facts, okay? I'm not giving opinions on this. This is straight facts of things that happened. So that way, if anybody comes back and they say, oh, well, you were talking shit about this person. No, I'm not. I'm just giving facts. So James Jamal Williams came up before Eugene Cooper in 2001 for a charge of criminal domestic violence and high and aggravated nature. He was sentenced to probation for 2 years. Probation for 2 years. Now, at the time, James Jamal Williams had a kind of spotty past. This would not be the first time that something like this happened. The jail sentence was 5 years suspended. They went from 5 years suspended to 188 days in court costs to probation. So he did get time, but in the end, he got out with probation. So he's out, he's doing his thing, and in Darlington, in May or June of 2004, I can't remember exactly when their graduation was held. But in 2004, there was a graduation that a girl, a bright, beautiful young woman who had an entire life ahead of her by the name of Meshia Samuel. She was 17 years old. She graduated with honors, and she was on her way to start med school. Like, that was her path. She'd already been accepted to college. She was excited about going to school. She really, really, really wanted to help people, and that's basically who she was throughout her entire life. She did a lot of things with her church. She was very involved in her church. She was very involved in a lot of the clubs in her church, a lot of clubs in school. She was just an all-around good girl. Well, in August of 2004, Meshia Samuel went to go visit her aunt in it wasn't exactly the best apartment complex in Darlington. I'll put it to you that way. There had been rumors.
Kind of sketchy.
It was very sketchy. There had been rumors throughout, my entire life. Because it was centered at this place called Bottom of the Hill. Bottom of the Hill in Darlington held a pool hall. There were 2 convenience stores there. And then there were these apartments that sat next to convenience store. And my mom, you just hear things like when you're a child and you're a teenager that you're not 100% sure about, but you just kind of put it in like your memory bank and then walk away from it. I think it was my mom who told me back in the day that there was a death that took place in this particular apartment complex. I think a little boy drank the pool there or something. And so they ended up like cementing the pool so nobody else could go swimming anymore. But I'm not 100%.
Kind of don't go to the bottom of the hill.
Right, exactly. The bottom of this kind of like, it was kind of sketchy to begin with. And when I was a teenager, I never understood how come my parents were so adamant about me not going to this particular pool hall. But they were like, no, you're not going to go. And I like snuck out and went anyway. And I got in a lot of trouble. But this particular apartment complex was known for drug activity. There was a lot of things going in and on that, the cops were called out there a lot. And so in August of 2004, I'm working at the newspaper. It's a Monday. And for us, Mondays were stupid busy. Like, you would not believe the shit that we had to do on Mondays. Like, it was ridiculous. Stress-inducing, for sure. But we were almost newspaper that day, because that's the day that we had to take it to the press. And we get a phone call. And the lady says, you guys need to get down to Creekside Apartments. There's something going on down there. Well, there's always something going down. At Creekside Apartments, so we didn't really think anything about it. And because of the fact that this particular person, I'm not going to say his name because he didn't even want his name on the pictures that he took at the scene. Because
he didn't want his name in the paper.
Right. He worked with us. He worked with us. He was a staff writer and he worked in our advertising cells. So when you work for a small newspaper, you basically wear a lot of hats. Like, you do a lot of things. And so we sent him down there to go take some pictures and just kind of get some general information about what was going on. And come to find out, unfortunately, in a very sad situation, the aunt of Meshia Samuel came home, put her key in the deadbolt, and unlocked the door. Now, that's very important. I want you to remember that. She put her key in the deadbolt and unlocked the door. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
She walks in and she's like, Misha, I'm here. Are you here? Because she was spending time with her aunt before she went off to college. She didn't hear anything. So she walked around the apartment, noticed some things were kind of weird, walked into the bedroom, and found her 17-year-old niece dead on her bed.
Oh, wow.
She had been sexually assaulted and had her throat slit. And it was something that later on, I do have some court documents of the story that the aunt told about her finding her niece in this situation and the, I would say, pain that it caused her.
The anguish.
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, I can't even imagine, walking in and finding, my niece or nephew dead in a room.
There would be anguish would not be the word I would be
Yeah.
mad as.
I wouldn't be mad as hell. I would be torn apart. Like, I wouldn't know what to do.
You know how close I am to my niece and my nephew personally.
Exactly.
Like,
So
I would have lost my mind.
right, exactly. So she immediately calls 911, and then of course we go to the part where my coworker is out there trying to find out information about what's going on. So he's reporting back to us, everything going on, and the aunt's name, by the way, her name is Meshia Samuel. She's the one who found her niece. It was August 16th, and so it was very, very traumatic for her. And I'm going to read something here in a little bit where she actually sues a couple of people, but in my opinion, rightfully so, but why?
Okay.
So they immediately go out, 911's called, they immediately go and they find, find her body. And as in the court document stated, there was evidence of a horrible assault with a knife upon Meshia. And so she's grief stricken. She's out with family members. The police are doing their thing. And one thing that we have always talked about, Melissa and I, we've watched a lot of crime dramas.
Yeah. I've watched a lot of serial killers.
Yeah, like serial killers, crime dramas, the first 48, it was like
yes.
I think that was my gateway to true crime, to be honest with you.
Which is funny because the first 48 a lot of times is filmed in Charlotte. So it's real funny to go, I know where that corner is. I know where that gas station is.
Yes,
I know where that is.
Yeah, exactly. So, first 48 was kind of like, I would like to say my gateway. But then came Criminal Minds. I want to go into the behavioral analysis.
Shamar Moore.
Yeah, Shamar Moore. Yeah,
Shamar.
Kubler.
Which we're actually, me and my husband are rewatching Criminal Minds.
Yeah, we are too. We're rewatching it, and we're also EIS. So
my husband's watching it.
Yeah. So I
never got into EIS.
I like it because I don't know. I like those types of like criminal dramas where you're like, okay, the whodunits, like what, who did it, why they did it. My whole thing is I always wonder why. That's my big.
That's why I'm into serial killers.
Yeah.
I always want to know why. Like, they always fascinated me. Not what they did, just why did they do it? Like Ted Bundy got so bored that he just decided, I'm going to escape from jail twice and be on the run for 43 days. Like, why? Why did you do that? Why? Because you were bored?
Ted Bundy, I swear. Between him, Ed Kemper, and
Charles Manson.
or the Green River Killer. Like, Green River,
Manson
man,
is my guy. Charles Manson is my guy. Uncle Charlie. Uncle Charlie.
So yeah, there's something that we've learned watching all these crime dramas, all these true crime shows and everything, is that a lot of times the killer returns to the scene of the crime to investigate his wrongdoing.
To see what they know.
Exactly. And so this guy that I worked with, again, name unknown because he didn't even want his name on this, took pictures of the crowd because why not? He gets them back to us And
That was like the Night Stalker or Iran. He actually went to the town meetings
mhm,
to see what they knew and to see if they were onto him.
exactly. So a lot of times people who commit crimes will go back to the scene just to see what they know, what's been said, to see how close they are to figuring out who
Do you know
actually.
like the balls you have to be like, you know what? I'm gonna go to the town hall meeting.
Mhm.
Let's see what they know. Like that takes balls. That takes big cojones
It does,
to show back up.
and it fascinates me that they would do that. I mean, I'm not saying that I have ever killed anybody, but if I did, I wouldn't show up to a crime, to a town hall
No,
meeting or the crime scene or anything.
no,
My ass would be
I'm
halfway
out.
down my ass would be in Mexico right now.
Somewhere
Like
that doesn't have extra. Like I'd be
exactly.
out. I'd
I'm
be
out.
out.
But of course, we're the smart ones. We we know that if you're gonna do something stupid like that, you don't stick around. So
Exactly.
so he's taking pictures of the crowd and everything. So he brings all these pictures back to we ended up running a story basically just about Misha because obvious this time, right? And
Hmm.
so it was kind of, crazy that first week. I remember if you guys are scratching at the door, I am so sorry. My cat is super pissed at me for not allowing her in this room right now. But if she were in here, all you would hear is meowing, 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 meowing. And I don't think our listeners would really care to hear that. And I'm about to get the door to make her stop.
Oh,
Lock her in the
sweet
bathroom next
baby.
time. Yeah,
Sweet baby.
she's the poor thing. She gets very bad separation anxiety, and she doesn't like locked rooms. She likes the ability to
No more
roam.
locked doors.
No more locked doors. So I'm about to figure out, Well, and plus, the fiance's not here. He went to go get breakfast for us, and so because of that, she's probably pissed off because I am the only human in the house at the moment. So she's like, anyway, but I digress. So he's taking pictures of the scene, and like I said, we basically ran a story about Meshia and her life and what we could gather from friends and family at that particular time in such short notice, and we released a quick article about this. And I remember we kept it basically about her, her life, the things that she did, her accomplishments, what her friends and family had to say about her. It was very straightforward because at the time, nobody had an idea about what was going on. So the cops are doing they're investigating. They're trying to figure out what the hell just happened because this is a small town. These types of murders do not happen in our small town. Now, if there has been murders in the past, usually it is shootings or
A hunting
robberies.
accident gone wrong.
Exactly. I mean, it was, murders that took place were very straightforward. There was nothing like this where a woman was assaulted and then had her throat slit. Like that in itself shocked everybody in the town. So with this information, now remember what I said earlier. When
Put
her
key in the deadbolt and unlock the door.
Exactly. So, if that's the case, who the fuck had a key? Because the only way to lock that deadbolt from the outside was with a key. So the cops were focused on that. They were like, what is this? Like, how in the world? And because I remember just hearing this, like, okay, so if the aunt had to use key to get in the house, how? People don't, and we're not talking, there was no like open windows. There was no way to open the windows. So there was like no way that it could have got it, person could have got in from window. They, I'm pretty sure, I don't know for a fact, but I'm pretty sure, whenever they were checking out the crime scene, that was like one of the first places they looked was to see how this person could have got in.
So like the windows were shut and locked and
Right. And I don't even
there's
think
no
there was, yeah.
like there's no way to get in through the screens, or was there a back door?
No, not from my understanding. I'm trying to remember the layout of the actual apartments themselves, and I think there may have a back door, but from my understanding, it was locked as well, right? So I'm trying to, like I said, I'm thinking about the apartment complex and how it looked. And honestly, I think this might have been on the second floor. I'm not 100% sure. So that would have been very interesting.
So unless they climbed up a balcony.
And there was no balcony
So
to climb.
gotcha.
Yeah, so like the back side of the apartment be flat. There's like no way to get to that second floor. So people are baffled for a little bit, right? So I'm gonna read the part of the lawsuit that was filed by Arlene Samuels, so that way you can have an idea about what she saw from her point of view. She says in here, the plaintiff, Arlene Samuel, a resident of Darlington, South Carolina, in August 2004, was engaged in a landlord-tenant relationship, excluding the defendants, okay, because I don't want to go into who they are until I tell you the actual story about that. While leasing an apartment number 31 at Creekside Apartment. On August 16, 2004, the plaintiff's niece, Meshia Samuels, was visiting her just prior to going away to college. That day, Jill was alone in the apartment while the plaintiff was at work and the plaintiff's daughters were at school. The door to the apartment had been deadbolted, which required the key both to lock and unlock from the outside. It could only be locked from the inside by means of a lever, which had to be turned to lock the door. When she returned home from work at around 3 p.m. on August 16, 2004, she unlocked the door, went into the apartment. When the plaintiff entered her apartment, she called for her niece, who did not answer. Ms. Samuels then discovered Meshia lying dead in a pool of blood in the bedroom cut. There was evidence of a horrible assault with a knife upon Meshia. Because of evidence later developed by police, this particular person that we're going to talk about was arrested in his murder. He was found to have a copy of the master key, which opened most, if not all, of the apartment, the complex, including the apartment of Arlene Samuel.
Interesting.
So let's let that sink in for a minute. Now, I have rented apartments in the past, and I remember specifically when you're talking about a large apartment complex, when I lived in North Myrtle Beach for about almost 2 years. There was a manager on site who had master to all the locks in the apartments, but that was the only person who had those master keys. So if maintenance had to be let into an apartment to fix something in the apartment, she had to be there in order to let them access that apartment. She had to stay there the entirety of the time that maintenance person was in that apartment to ensure nothing happened inside that apartment.
To make sure nothing went wrong.
Right, and that's pretty much standard protocol in any apartment complex. Now, I know when I've rented from private renters in the past, the landlord would have a key to the apartment, but they were respectful enough to be like, hey, I'm going to be coming by tomorrow. I'm giving you 24 hours notice and I am coming into your apartment. And if you're going to be there, great, let me in. If not, I'll be entering your apartment. Common courtesy, standard courtesy right there, Yeah. So for this particular person, who, by the way, was not employed by the apartment complex, who had done some maintenance in the apartment complex, had a master key to all of the apartment.
How did he get a key?
Well, we're going to go into that because that's part of the lawsuit I'm going to talk about. So, like I said, a couple weeks go by.
Aliens.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of that were mishandled that could have been prevented that led to the death of this young lady. And that's the first thing. Number one, this person had a master key to the apartment, which should not have happened. So let's talk about part number 2 about that. So remember me talking about James Jamal Williams in the very beginning about how he was on probation for assault?
Yeah.
Okay. He violated his in
and
that
how
2
did he
years.
Violate?
From what I could see, let me pull that back up. Now I'm reading this straight from WIS-TV. This is in Columbia, South Carolina. This was published in September 2004, so not too long after Meshia's murder.
Mm-hmm.
The court records show that a man charged with killing a Darlington teenager last month was supposed to be in jail the night the girl was killed. A little less than a year before Meshia Samuels died, a judge ordered 32-year-old James Jamal Williams of Darlington to serve the remainder of a previous prison sentence because of a parole violation. In April 2002, Williams pleaded guilty to Florence County's aggravated assault charge in 2001. The judge ordered Williams to jail on a probation violation.
Do we ever find out what the probation violation is?
No, and I tried to find information on that. Oh, wait, the kidnapping charge. That's what it was. Yeah.
Oh,
Okay. A kidnapping
just
charge, right?
let's just kidnap somebody. That's fine.
Yeah, that's not going to violate our probation
Ooh,
whatsoever.
what
So
the
Florence, yeah, I mean that just Okay, so Florence County deputy took custody. Sorry, I just fell in there.
your
You know
grammar knocks
me.
you so.
You know me and my grammar. I have to. Woo! It says Florence County Sheriff's deputies. That's what they're calling them now. Took
Welcome to the
custody. Yeah, I know. Took custody of Williams and were preparing to send him to state prison, but he was released into the custody of Darlington County on a kidnapping charge. Williams was then released on bond. Yeah, it was like $15,000 bond
Well, if
on
you
the
only need
kidnapping
like
charge.
10% of that,
He's out.
he's out.
Yeah,
That's
$1,500.
way
He's
to
out
way to go.
on a kidnapping charge, knowing this man had a violent history. He'd already been, charged in an assault where he was supposed to spend jail time, but he got probation instead. Then he was supposed to be ordered to jail, a state prison, but was released into the custody of Darlington
Kidnapping
County
somebody.
for kidnapping somebody. And then Williams was then released on bond on the kidnapping charge, and Magistrate Clarence James has said he didn't know about Will's criminal past or pending prison sentence when he set bail.
Shouldn't that have been like the first thing you saw as a judge?
Right. If
You would think that that's in your paperwork while you're sitting up there on your stand that he is already on probation and he kidnapped somebody. Like that should be in like bold print, highlighted, italics, underlined.
this man is a danger to society, do not let
Yeah,
him out on bond.
yeah, with a slap on the wrist. Especially not a $15,000 bond when you only need. From what I remember, anyway, it's been a minute since I've had to bail someone out of jail.
It's still
Um,
10%.
okay, it's been a minute since I had to bail somebody out of jail, but you only need 10% to get somebody out. That's $1,500.
Right. Yeah, and he was out. He got let out. He got let out on bond. He moved in with his girlfriend into Creekside Apartments.
Mm.
And first of all, okay, so here's another thing that kind of baffles me. So we've both lived in a situation where we've had to be put on a lease in somebody's apartment application
Yes.
because they want to know who all is going to be living in this apartment because you have to run background checks on people.
Yes. Especially if that person has a criminal record.
Exactly. So that's the situation that we're looking at right now. There's this man who moves in with his girlfriend who has a violent past and is able to move directly in to an apartment complex, get a master key
The
from,
master key thing is what's throwing me. Like, why are you just going to give a master key out to just anybody?
well, apparently, according to, let me find the rest of this because I have it marked in my notes. Here. Yeah, here it is. Okay. A prior action was filed in this court titled Meshia Samuel, personal representative, versus real estate asset management. These are the people who own and run this apartment complex, right? There's REAM, REAM.
Mm-hmm.
They were talking to a person by the name of Fred Elmore. Now, Fred Elmore is the person that was in charge of basically keeping up with the property for Creekside Apartment.
Mm-hmm.
When hiring Ream to manage Creekside Apartments and two other complexes, the partnership did not impose any rules or policies of management. They did not have a written management agreement as required by the statute of South Carolina codes. It was important to have a key control policy from a security standpoint, right? So the deposition of the plaintiff and others here and there referred to shows that the on-site manager, Elmore, that Fred Elmore guy, frequently gave master keys to prospective tenants and allowed them to inspect apartments outside his presence.
Oh, because that's safe.
Yeah, exactly. That's totally safe. You just give whoever a master key. So
Let's give every Tom, Dick, and Harry a master key. It's fine.
right, exactly. Now, here's the thing. They knew that Elmore had the master key, as did 6, 7 other people, including maintenance men and painters, not employed by Ring. They were employed by, yeah, exactly. They're just giving out these master keys to every Tom, Dick, and Harry on the fucking planet and being like, hey, here's the key.
Fine. It's fine.
It's fine. Totally fine. I mean,
all I can think of is that meme with the little dog with the house on fire around him.
Exactly.
Going, it's fine. Here's the key.
Fine.
It's fine.
Everything's fine.
Totally fine.
Yeah, everything's great. So great.
It's not, though.
Right, exactly.
But it's not.
It's not okay. It's totally not okay.
I think I would have flipped my lid if I would have found out that the apartment I'm staying in is just handing out master. You want to talk about someone who would change their lock?
Yeah,
I don't care if it's legal to do that or not. I don't care.
Right.
I'm changing my lock.
So one of the guys who was in this apartment complex, who was like the main, like the part of Ream, his last name is Medford. He admitted that it would be wrong for Elmore to give master keys to those looking at apartments because it breaches the security of the master keys.
Well, no shit.
Duh. I mean, big ass duh. So they basically said that, all right, in this deposition that I'm reading, a lot of times they're mentioning, that they knew that there was no policy for, protecting security of these master keys. But they allowed it to continue because why the fuck not? So Charmaine Bolton, who was the living girlfriend of James Jamal Williams, testified that Williams helped Elmore clean apartments, remove things from apartments, and in fact, Williams helped Elmore repair a shower in her apartment. She actually saw him doing the work, and Charmaine told investigator Davis, he was one of the main investigators for the murder, said that Elmore had given the key to do things for him, and her children told her that Williams had a master key. So everybody knows that this man, who was supposed to have his ass in jail for kidnapping and assault and probation violation, has a master key to do whatever the fuck he wants inside his apartment complex. As for Elmore, he had, quote, no idea who had master keys in August of 2004.
Because again, that's safe.
Yeah. No list of the master keys were kept, and there was no log to know who had master keys.
Thank God I own a house.
Right?
Because let me tell you, this is giving me like straight heebie-jeebie vibes. Because if I lived in a complex right now, I would be like, who has the key?
Yeah.
Like,
exactly.
This is like, I already know who has still one.
Exactly. Like, we don't even have locks per se. We have.
What do you mean you don't have locks?
We do have locks. Okay, let me rephrase.
I know you live in Darlington, all, but
no, I don't live in Darlington. Thank God. Okay, I live in Florence now. Okay, so that's not much of a difference, but I mean it's still better. Especially after I tell you, there's like I said, there was another reason why I'm doing this story. After I tell you about some shit that's going on in Darlington, you'd be like, "What the fuck?" But so I live in Florence now. I live in a very safe neighborhood, in my opinion. There's a lot of older people that live in this neighborhood. We know all of our neighbors. We know them by name. We, like I said, very safe neighborhood. We do have locks. So I didn't mean to say we don't have locks, but we do have locks. We don't have traditional. We have coded. And the reason why is because stepkids, when they were getting off the bus, instead of making them have a key that they could easily lose, we just put coded locks on the doors. So all they had to do was just punch in their code. Right. And we hold those codes close to us. Like, there's only so many people who know my code, and they're my kids, and that's it. And they've been entrusted that if they give this code out, their asses. So, like, that was one thing that we,
I was about to say, you don't have.
No,
I understand you live in a small town. I mean, so do I. But
no, we have locks. We have locks on ours. It's like I said, just coded locks because it's just so much easier for the kids. And but we lock. We still lock our vehicles at night. Sometimes I forget, but we've never had anything stolen. Knock on wood. And
I'm more worried about bears coming into my house.
I mean, we have. Yeah. Because we live across the street from a swamp. So I mean,
you go out on my back porch, you can hear he's crying.
Yeah, exactly.
And small town I saw a bear drinking out of my creek.
Yeah, Exactly. So,
So,
like, you're more
I'm
worried
more
about
worried about a bear knocking my door down when coming in.
right, exactly. That's kind of how we feel here, too. But,
But we still lock our doors.
we still lock our doors, and I know who's got the keys, or the codes, I should say, to our doors, and,
But just to have someone not have a log to who has your key to your door, that is insane.
And that's the thing that kind of like scared me about this story. I mean, obviously, it's horrific what happened to this poor girl. Like, she had her whole entire life. She had her whole entire life. She was, like, she was a good person. Her family were good people.
And again, we watch so much crime stuff. We know that, like, for someone to get their throat slit, that's a personal attack.
Right, exactly. That right there itself is saying
personal.
It is personal. I mean, stabbings, in my opinion, personal. Throat slashing, personal. Anything that does that kind of
because you
bodily
took the
harm.
time to actually slit someone's throat. That's not just a random thing that you just do. That's a personal attack on somebody. Thanks, Criminal Minds.
Yeah, thanks, which, by the way, just to give you guys a little side note, anytime that we I didn't actually mention this to Melissa because we were just kind of like doing this on the fly. There's a lot of things I have to like work out and stuff, so I just want to know now. So my fiance, who I love dearly, amazing man, he's worked his ass off on this. He just graduated from college with a master's degree in psychology, and he is going for his BAU or his BA.
Yeah, my other best friend, she has 3 degrees in criminal psychology, in forensic psychology, and in laws. So,
well, that's what I went as well. I went to school for psychology as well. So, anytime that we have to like go to like talk about this kind of stuff, we have people that we're going to be referencing and being like, "Hey, let me pick your brain about this one for a second. What are your thoughts on?"
Yes, and I actually went to school from so.
Yeah, so we have some backgrounds on these kinds of things to just see if anybody says, "Why do you guys know about all this stuff?" Well, because we know about this stuff.
We do. It's not just because we're obsessed with it; it's because we actually
have the background to go with it.
Yes.
So yes, that kind of stuff, it definitely takes some personal effort to kill somebody in this situation. And so there's 2 things that could have been avoided here. Number one, that judge should have known this man should have been in jail, first off.
Yes. He, again, big bold letters, capital, italics, underlined, highlighted. He is a menace to society.
He is, absolutely. And he should not have been able to walk the streets. And he was staying in this apartment where the apartment should have known his criminal history, but because of the fact that he was friends with this particular apartment manager, none of this was ever talked about.
He also should never have had a master key.
No, he never should have had that. There's testimony in this particular court document where a woman by the last name of Thomas looked at an apartment for herself and a friend. Elmore gave her a key that, quote, opens all the apartments that she used to inspect several apartments before renting.
That's just, that just rubs me.
Yeah.
Because like my elderly parents live in an apartment, and it's a nice apartment. It's actually in a good spot now. But just the thought that someone has a master key to their apartment. See, that's in chills, full body chills. Just I mean, granted, their dog is not going to let anybody in that apartment, but Bruno will eat them alive. But
he would eat them alive.
But still, like, that's just insane.
Yeah. So, another person by the name of Ruth Ann Dickey and her boyfriend were given a key and used it to look at several apartments on 3 floors. Elmore did not accompany them to look at these apartments.
3 floors.
In July, before Arlene moved in. Now, keep in mind, Arlene had only been living in this apartment for a few months at this time. Not even 2 months at this time. In July, before Arlene moved in, Williams took Leroy McBride into apartment number 1 with the key, the apartment that she would go on to rent. The plaintiff, Arlene Samuel, was given a master key by Fred Elmore so that she could inspect number 31 prior to moving in. The apartment, okay, so it was on the 3rd floor. That's what I thought. I thought it was on the 2nd or floor, but I could. So that would also be kind of suspicious.
That would still be still be difficult, even if they had a back door
Right,
to
and
get into.
there's no
Unless
back
it's
doors.
Slender Man or something.
Right, and there's no back doors on this thing because they didn't actually. From my memory, there were no fire escapes on that back. I could be wrong, but I'm going on memory. And since then, these apartments have changed hands, so they've done a lot of remodeling. Yeah,
but like just to hand out master.
Yeah, so
that's a little much.
Yeah, that's
all
so
willy nilly.
Yeah, so she used this master key to get in, and after she to the rental, she went to the real estate I always want to say assessment, but it's real estate asset management office in Florence. The key that she got from them did not work, so went back and got another, which also did not work. She then went to Fred Elmore, who was working in another apartment in his direction. She went into his apartment. She stepped foot into his apartment. His door was not locked. There were numerous apartment keys on his dining room table. Just chilling out.
That's just gross. Like, now I'm gonna call my parents and be like, change your lock.
So she located the one with the tab for apartment number 31, and it worked and allowed her to enter the apartment. No one was in Elmore's apartment when she went in and unlocked the door. Went in the unlocked door. The keys were not secured in any way. So, yeah. Mike Caskey, who was a locksmith from Irmo's a town in South Carolina close to Columbia, said in his deposition that the key found in William's possession was filed down crudely using a master key. It was not an impressioning technique. Also, William Frederick Booth, who is a risk management expert, testified that Williams had to have a key to apartment 31 to be able to lock the door after the murder. I mean, duh.
Well, duh.
I mean,
when you have a master key, you can unlock and lock anything.
Right. Exactly. So it is obvious that the defendants had no key policy, and took no action to prevent keys from coming into the hands of an authorized person. So this is all coming from the defendant, by the way. This is filed in public record. It was in 2019 that these documents were finally approved and scanned into Darlington County's docket. There was a stipulation of dismissal in 2014 in which they came to a settlement on all of this. The biggest thing that was stated in these court documents, other than the whole why were there so many fucking keys out there, was right. It was state of poor. That right there in itself is pretty sad. Let me find the actual information here. Sorry, I thought I had it. I'm horrible at like tabbing these. Okay, so this lawsuit was not only just brought up against the apartment complex, the managers of the apartment complex, but also against James Jamal Williams himself, which you do see that a lot in court hearings because a lot of times the family members will sue the defendant for
wrongful death,
having
so many keys.
Right, exactly. So it was Arlene Samuel, real estate, asset management, Robert O'Hara, Steve Imbow, Oboe partner Ralph Medford, Fred Elmore, and James Jamal Williams. This was filed in 2008, 4 years after the death of Meshia Samuel. And again, it was settled out of court later on. She claimed that, obviously there was a lot of emotional turmoil that was against her.
She went through.
Yeah, she walked in and found her niece like this. And like you said earlier, you find somebody like that with
slit throat.
Yeah, exactly.
That's gonna leave scars. That's gonna
leave an impact on you for sure.
Yes. I would never be able to walk into that apartment again.
Yeah, exactly. Now, Williams was arrested and charged with Meshia's murder. He was found guilty of the actual docket because that information. Oh, I love doing research, especially when it's on something that not a lot of people know about. But yeah, so he was found guilty on on several counts. It was kidnapping, burglary in the first degree, possession of a weapon during the commission of certain crimes, murder, and possession of 28 grams or less of marijuana. Because, just throw that little extra in there.
Yeah.
They sought the death penalty against him, but the same jury that convicted him and was also set to sentence him deadlocked on the death penalty. So he is now serving life without the possibility of parole for murder.
Good.
Life for burglary in the first degree. 30 days for possession of marijuana. And under the South Carolina
Just throw
law,
the weed in there. It's fine.
Yeah, throw that in there. Under South Carolina law, the trial court did not sentence him to kidnapping conviction because they sentenced him to a murder conviction, which that basically says this overshadows this, so we're going for the max that we can give him. He did file an appeal because, that is his right.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime there is a life sentence or a death penalty case, that is their right. He said that in ground one of the petition, he said he had an ineffective assistance of trial counsel, which basically says he thought his counsel sucked. But I was there for a couple of the actual hearings during the time that he was being tried for murder, and I thought his counsel did a great job. So there's that. Ground two was prosecutorial. God, I can't even say that word. Basically, the prosecution had some misconduct, is what he was saying. It said that the petitioner states that the prosecutor did perjure himself during his closing arguments, stating that DNA from the victim was found on the petitioner's kitchen floor when state expert DNA forensic analyst agent testified that there wasn't any DNA found by the victim in the petitioner's apartment kitchen. There was only a mixture between James Williams and girlfriend Charmaine Bolton. It wasn't enough. It was how they would say it was like a misspeak.
Yeah.
So there wasn't enough of a thing to say, that could have made a huge difference because, obviously they found his DNA in the apartment. The argument was, well, he did go in there because, he was doing maintenance, but yeah. Ground three, defective indictment, which means that the prosecutor did process a defective indictment, which the indictment showed a true bill by the grand jury foreperson. What that means is that because of the fact of the first two, that the third thing should never have taken place. So the indictment should have never taken place. All of that was found to not be enough, and he lost his appeal.
Good.
And and now he's spending time in jail because of it. And I should send you a picture, just so you can have an idea of who this guy is, and we'll end up putting it on our Instagram so you can see a picture of him. And I have to find a picture of Meshia. We had one in the newspaper when I worked there. I called up to the newspaper Friday. It's hilarious. I called up there, and I worked there for almost 20 years, so I know the ins and outs completely.
Mm-hmm.
And the lady, I said, hey, I was looking for newspapers from 2004. Do you think you still have copies of them that I can at least come and take a look? Because I know for a fact that every time we would put out a newspaper, it's punch holes in them and put them in these giant books, right? And then you could flip through
archive them.
Yeah, and archive them and look through things. She's like, I don't know if we have any. I was like, what? She's like, yeah, I don't know if we have any from 2004. I'm like, I'm pretty sure you do, and I think I can tell you exactly where they are. She's like, well, our newspaper changed hands about a year and a half ago. And I was like, I'm pretty sure they're still there. She's like, well, you can go to the library and look it up. I was like, I'll go Monday.
Do we really want to go to the library, though?
I'm not going to the library. I'm going to the newspaper. I'll walk up in there and be like, look in that cabinet. I know exactly where those newspaper articles are.
Third one down, halfway.
Yeah, exactly. See that cabinet right there? It's in there. I know it's in because I personally put it in there. Because I want to get some pictures of her and I also want to get some pictures of him. So that way kind of people have like faces to names and they know who they're dealing with. So we I was looking at there's an actual place where you can go online and look up his prison record. So things that he's done inside prison. And since he's been in prison, he's made a lot of stupid mistakes. He's done things to get privileges revoked while he's...
well, I guess if you're a life sentence, you really have nothing to lose at this point.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like at this point, he's just chilling in there. And unfortunately, there's this family who lost a very amazing person in their life, and it shouldn't have happened. Like honestly, it should not have happened because he was, like you said earlier, he was a menace to society. He should have been in jail, stayed in jail, and didn't. So he's now 44 years old. So it's been a while. This took place. It's what, 2021. So almost, I can't math.
Almost 20 years. So like
almost 20 years. Yeah.
Almost. We'll go with that.
Yeah.
17
yeah,
years sometimes.
17 years. Yeah, 17 years.
Math is hard.
Math is very hard. He I was looking at, there's this thing that's called publicpolicerecord.com where you can go and look at like inmates. And I completely forgot about the whole point of the picture story and the returning to the scene of the crime. So when those pictures were being taken of the scene of the crime, we got a picture because after he was arrested for the murder, we got a mugshot, and I was like, wait, hold up. And they're like, what? I was like, give me a second. So I went running to the computer, pulled up the pictures, and sure enough, there he was standing in the crowd wearing a white t-shirt and everything. Like you could make him out. And
that's just, give him the dunce hat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Rule number 1, don't return to the scene of the crime.
Exactly. Don't ever return to the crime like that. But yeah, he was there. I actually did a thing. It was kind of cool where you could we took the original picture and put it in the newspaper, and then I created like a little pull-out box, enhanced this photo so you could see it was him.
You went all CSI on him.
Oh yeah, totally did.
Make it bigger, enhance photo.
And people, what? And I was like, well, it made a lot of sense though because they did evacuate the apartment complex so the cops could go in and there would be no disturbance of the crime scene. But if it were me and this were happening and I knew that I committed this murder, I would not stick around inside the crowd. I would bolt. Telephone privileges for 180 days and lost his visitation privileges for 180 days. Earlier that year,
poor baby.
Earlier that year, he had done it again. Lost his canteen privileges for 30 days. Tried it again earlier that year. And lost his canteen privileges for 120 days. Telephone privilege 20 days. And visitation privileges for 120 days.
See, and this is where my mind goes because there's two kinds of people. How did he try to sneak in a cell phone?
There's so many they do
there
that.
Are so many. There's two kinds.
In 2000,
I'm instantly what orifice?
I don't even want to think about that. That just ugh.
I'm just bend over and call.
So just to tell you, yeah, exactly. Just to give you an idea.
Did you not learn the first 2 times?
Well, just to give you an idea about how awful. In 2012, while he was in prison, he was caught with exhibitionism and public masturbation.
Well then, I guess we know which orifice he.
Also in 2012, he tried an attempt to possess a cell phone.
See, he just needs to stop with the cell phone.
Yeah, he did another exhibition in public masturbation in 2012.
See, just him and Bubba. I'm telling you, him and Bubba.
Right? And then wow, this guy. And then in 2009, he destroyed something in prison at a value of $100 or more. So that could be anything, probably
I wonder what he destroyed though.
I do too. I want to find that out because that baffles me. So he also lost his canteen privilege 280 days, telephone privileges for 280 days, and lost visitation for 180 days. So that
must have been something serious.
Yeah, I mean, that's half a year that you can't have visitations, phone calls. You can't go to the canteen.
That must have been something serious. What did he break?
I don't know. I'm gonna find out because that's interesting.
Inquiring minds want to know.
Exactly. He worked as a food service aide in prison. He worked in the barber shop.
No,
he was a mechanic helper.
If you slit someone's throat, I'm not letting you near a razor.
No, exactly. That's what I'm saying. What in the world
I'm not letting you near a razor.
Yeah.
No. Not gonna happen.
Yeah.
Not going to happen.
So he's lived a very interesting life in jail, and as of right now, like I said, he's 44 years old, and he hasn't really done much 2015 as far as like stuff. So maybe he's learned his lesson about what to
I doubt it.
do.
I doubt it. People like that don't just quit.
Yeah,
Like going
exactly.
back to serial killers. People like
Yeah.
that don't stop.
Well, he's in
He's
jail.
probably just gotten better at
Yeah,
sneaking.
he's
He just got better at sneaking cell phone. It's fine.
well, they all pretty much have, and now they probably have computer privileges too, and so he probably doesn't even have to worry about cell phones.
I saw a TikTok live the other day of two guys in jail.
Yeah,
Blew my mind.
the fact that they are able to
TikTok.
do that. Yeah, in jail. Like, I mean, this whole case baffled me, and there was a lot of miscarriage of justice here. He should have been in jail, first of all. The apartment complex should have better monitored who was staying in their apartment complex, by the way, and also
Who
who
kept
had
just
all the
giving
master
away
keys.
master key.
Right. But one of the main reasons, another reason why I wanted to bring this up is because Johnson County right now has been inundated with a lot of repeat offenders. I'm actually in one of the crime groups for our local town, where they talk about kind of keeping an eye on each other, essentially. Some of them being nosy
Like a neighborhood
Nancy's.
watch.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a lot of discussion in this group about the fact that there's been a lot of people who've been arrested for burglary charges or assault or, just stealing stuff. I mean, there's so many things that have been going on. The cops are working their asses off to arrest these people. They go before the judge or magistrate and they're like, okay, $15,000 bond. And they're out to go do it again. And this continues to happen.
Same with Charlotte. Charlotte's a lot like that too. That they'll get the slap on the wrist and then they're out doing something like they just got caught for, or a lot of times they'll get caught for something worse.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And so, I feel bad for the cops because they're having to do overtime to catch these repeat offenders. And, I mean, I agree that, everybody should have their day in court. I'm 100% okay with how our judicial system works as far as getting people to trial. The problem that I have when situations happen where they know that this person just came before them or another judge for the same offense or something worse, and they still let them out on bond.
Do better.
Do better. Do your job better. Because, apparently people's lives are at stake when things like this happen. And I don't think it's fair to the citizens who live in these towns where these repeat offenders are coming in and out on a constant basis, being given a slap on the wrist and being told, hey, get back out in the world, you get again, and probably won't have to worry about it anymore. Because you know what? You're just going to be let right back out again. That's just how I look at it. And it's unfortunate, and it was unfortunate that this poor girl lost her life because of it. And like I said, this is a case that has kind of haunted my brain since this trial, since the murder took place. I've thought about it on an occasion here and there, especially when it starts to get around the time of like August or the end of school year. Because there's just certain things that just kind of stick with you, and this is one of those cases that has always kind of stuck with me. So I wanted to put it out there because there's a lot of, of course, there's always those big major cases that people hear about.
Always hear about, but it's the little cases that no one hears about. And this was a serious case.
This was a very serious case. This was a case of people should have been doing their jobs, and nobody was being held accountable. The lawsuit, so that got settled out, and poor Arlene Samuels, still going through it, I'm sure. And so that was the story of Meshia Samuel. Sorry I don't have that much on her life history because her parents and her family were kind of quiet about a lot of things with her. They didn't make a lot of public appearances. They didn't make a lot of public statements. A lot of the stuff that I had to find was based on, memory and research from court documents. So that's the story of the story of Meshia Samuel and that asshole that thank you that never been out. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Next week we will have something a little bit different. I'm sure Melissa's
next
got
week
some.
is my turn.
Yes.
And I already know what I'm doing.
And I'm so excited. She's
Mine's
gonna tell me a
paranormal.
story. Yay!
Yes, mine's paranormal
love
because
paranormal stories.
I am the paranormal person.
She is. She's pretty awesome.
Should I go ahead and tell them what it is, or should we let it be?
I say we let's, because that way everybody goes in and they're like, "Oh my gosh, that story is gonna be awesome." Because I don't even know. I want to be surprised.
Okay.
I want to be surprised. I love not knowing, so I can get that genuine response. Be like, "Oh, really?" Oh, but yeah. So we're like I said, we've always been obsessed with like haunted places, and we actually had the opportunity to go out to Waverly. Didn't really get to go very far.
Well, I actually got closer the second. Wonderful husband surprised me after Thanksgiving dinner. He's from Louisville, Kentucky, and there's a laser show that they do every year outside. So I actually got to get closer than the first time.
Very
One of these
awesome.
days, I am going to get inside.
It's gonna
happen, and I'm gonna see things because just so y'all know, I do see things. I'm
You're
clairvoyant,
yeah.
Claire, whatever. I feel things. I hear. So me going to haunted places like I do, it's always it's a spectacle.
So yeah,
Alicia was actually on a paranormal group at one point, and she got to investigate haunted places. So it's fun. It's a good time.
I like
being shitless.
Yeah, I like the lesser known places that have like a really good backstory. So I've got some things that,
and that's my story next week.
Yeah,
it's a little lesser known place that has a really cool backstory that I've actually been to several times.
Yeah, I'm really excited. That'd be great. So to end things off, I want to give you guys some information about our social media. So if you guys want to come follow us, we're on Instagram at Dark Podcast US. We're on Twitter at Dark Podcast US, and we are on Facebook. Just look for Dark Podcast. That's pretty much it.
We couldn't keep it all the same. We had to make it work.
Yeah. So the only reason why I had the US is apparently somebody stole Dark Podcast as username, so it was like, okay. So
I was actually looking for it the other day. There's a podcast called Dark Poutine. It's a Canadian podcast.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my god, I could go for some poutine right now.
I could too. God, it sounds so good. There's nothing like gravy and fries. I don't know what it is. So good.
We're just hungry bitches. It's fine.
Hey, I'm about to go eat me some Bojangles here in a minute. Shout out to Bojangles.
Bojangles.
Sponsor us.
Sponsor us.
But yeah, so thank you guys so much for your first podcast. We are super excited, and we hope you guys find your way out of the dark. Thank you so much.